All right, let's fade that bad boy out. Welcome back to another episode of Pain Points here in the lounge. One half of the team, Darius Bell here, along with Samson Jagoras.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, man. Back for another week of entrepreneurship and absolute craziness in this world.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little better. Those Buffs actually put together a game last week, and they looked halfway decent.
They
So,
sure did. They looked really good.
or CSU is just that bad.
Oh, it's definitely a case of that. They were
So,
pretty bad.
yeah, we'll see if they can put together a run game. That new running back they put in, Welsh,
Yeah,
the true freshman, man, he's built just like a guy I played with, Hugh Charles, where he's like 5'5",
yeah.
and you just cannot take this dude down. So I'm excited to watch that kid play.
He was a tank. He reminded me of he's definitely bigger than him, but the way he was running, I was like, oh man, he looks like Ray Rice out there.
Ray
Like,
Rice, or who was that stocky dude that played for Jacksonville?
um,
Oh
not
man,
Fred Taylor. Fred Taylor was more
no,
finesse. Not Leonard Fournette because
no,
he
no.
went over to Tampa.
I can't remember his name right now, but yeah, he was like 5'3", and those guys are way hard to take down as running backs, and they're like, maybe 200 pounds, but just yacked. I mean,
Yeah,
Hugh Charles, who I played with, I think he was like 195, and dude could rep out 405 on bench. He's very strong. Could just chuck a backflip on demand. So
it's not fair, dude.
it is not fair, but yeah, I was just a white guy in a athletic person's world trying to. It's a
White man.
glorified guard. Yeah, glorified guard playing fullback is what I was.
Wow. Yeah, and so you guys don't know he was a fullback at CU
Yeah.
back in the golden era.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if we've ever had a golden era. Golden era was probably the 90s.
Okay.
Uh,
94? Was that 94?
yeah, Rassam Salam, Jarian Hagan, Cordell Stewart.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I
Cardell
mean,
Stewart.
that was a team. Those guys won a national championship.
Wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, we've been struggling ever since then. No culture. That's the biggest thing. So we'll
That's
see if
still
we can
clear. That's still clear on both sides. Like culture is everything.
Yeah, Colorado football struggles with that.
Yeah. Well, dude, we got a decent little rundown today. We're just gonna jump right into it. We're gonna talk a little bit about the assassination attempt. We got some stuff going on with the Fed. We got assets in turmoil. We got some good marketing on the end, and then last couple of clips on the political side of things for us as we continue to move towards a November critical decision day for the nation.
Yeah, I know. Can't wait to be on the other side of it. It'd be interesting to see how it plays out, regardless of who wins.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But God knows we need something different. That's for sure.
Indeed, man. Indeed. So on that note, this first story here, I wanted us to spend a few minutes, not even really opining on the uh, a second assassination attempt on former President Trump yesterday, but I just wanted to survey what some of the information that was out there, and I've gone through some of the major media outlets, and if they're not behind paywalls, some of the information isn't great. And so what I actually found was an article here from that's premature, an article here from the Independent, and I don't really read the Independent all like that, but I thought they did a good job of sort of giving some good details on what actually has happened. So this article here comes from the Independent. They say Ryan Ruth, what we know about the Trump shooting suspect caught with an AK-47 and a GoPro. Oh man. So, a suspected gunman is now in custody after Secret Service agents foiled what appears to have been a second assassination attempt on Donald Trump in just the space of 2 months. Ryan Wesley Ruth, 58 years old, was identified by federal officials as the suspect who was allegedly armed with a powerful AK-47 style assault rifle. That's funny. And aimed it through the bushes at Trump National Golf Club in West Palm Beach when the former president was playing a round of golf on Sunday. The suspect was around 300 to 500 yards away from Trump at the time. West Palm Beach Sheriff Rick Bradshaw said in the press conference around 1 p.m. that Secret Service agents spotted the butt of the gun through the fence and fired shots toward the suspect. It is not clear whether the accused gunman fired any shots. Ruth allegedly fled the scene, with a witness taking photo and noting the license plate of his black SUV. Officers from the Martin County Sheriff's Office in Florida, based near Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate, tracked down the vehicle on I-95 and captured the suspect. He has been taken into custody and is being held at the local county jail. The motive of the alleged attacks remain unclear, but the FBI is treating it as an attempted assassination, the Bureau said in a statement. Lastly, when he fled, Ralph allegedly left several items behind at the golf club: an AK-47 with a scope, 2 backpacks with ceramic tile inside, a GoPro video camera, which he allegedly intended to use to film the incident. While details about what exactly happened and what may have motivated the suspect remain something of a mystery, information is emerging about Ralph. Quickly on him, he has a criminal record dating back to 2002. He was convicted on possession of a weapon of mass destruction. What? Who is this guy? First of all, like, how's my man out? Like, he has a weapon of mass destruction. The weapon of mass destruction charge was brought out against Roth over a fully automatic machine gun he had. And so that's just a survey of the situation. There's more details out there about him. You can follow you can look at some of his posts, his activity. He was heavily involved in trying to get people to Ukraine and fighting and different things. Ironically enough, Facebook already scrubbed his account in just the last 24 hours. And so there's not.
I love the articles. Like, I don't know what his motive was.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty clear what his motive was. He's got a vendetta. He feels that the only way to prevent him from winning is to try to take him out. I mean, to have 2 assassination attempts on one president in an election year is pretty incredible. I mean, that's nothing that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
Likewise. And that's why I bring it up, because it begs the question, well, without going into the deep ends of whatever side and different things, I think it's a fair question at this point. So basically, I had an interaction over the weekend. I was talking to a friend, and they gave me some feedback when I was talking to him, and I used the word "they" when I was talking about Trump being assassinated, having the first attempt in July, and he corrected me, which I received it. He said, "You shouldn't use they. This was the person." But I did say, and I shared with him, I said, "You know what, though? Here's why I'm starting to use they, is because we're talking about now, this is after this, we're talking now 2 attempts on a former president under the watch of an apparatus, the Secret Service, that is notable for not being so pregnable. And it just so happens that this is happening. Okay, so this happens 500, 300, 500 yards on a golf course, a private golf course. The first one happened 100 yards away in a incredibly dense environment. At some point, you have to say this is beyond gross negligence.
Yeah, I would agree, and that's where this is trending video that's going around that I put in the line right below in our doc.
Yes, let me pull that up. Got that.
So you remember how the first attempt, there was video of the Blackstone video that showed, it was an advertisement that showed the shooter in that video. Well, supposedly this video that's floating around is another one. This one's a Ukraine video sponsored by BlackRock.
Okay.
And we'll have to compare the pictures because I want to see. This is just 8 seconds of the entire video just to get straight to the clip, but you can see this guy's face. Right there. Stop.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
that's him.
That's the same guy, right?
Yeah, just the same guy.
So you can scroll down a little bit into the comments, but there's the full video. And then it's talking more about just kind of his background, but this consistent link to BlackRock propaganda, we'll call it, is very concerning to me.
Yep. Yeah, and it should be. There's some details that'll come out in the last year, just how their role and involvement in this war in particular, a lot of the contracts and things they have with the Ukraine and the ties to rebuilding the nation. And
Yeah, they own a lot of the government contracting businesses out there,
Mhm.
and so they have a vested interest in that.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager. They manage 10 trillion in assets. This includes publicly traded companies, single-family homes, and infrastructure assets like pipelines. But they also include,
Wow.
that includes companies, planes, equipment, bombs,
Yeah.
military equipment, etc. So they have a real vested interest in the war machine.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, and they're also the I wanted to use the word premier, but they're one of the foremost defense contractors for the things happening with other nations within NATO as well as they're interacting with the United States. And so
Yep.
you got to look at incentives, man, for sure. And
Yeah, I mean, two for two now, right?
2 for 2 and 0 for 2 actually.
Well, I mean, 2 for 2 that
Yes.
somehow there's a connection back to BlackRock.
Yeah.
0 for 2 on the attempts, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is not going to honestly. This is not going to stop. This doesn't. If he gets into presidency, it doesn't stop.
Correct.
It's going to keep going, which is even worse, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. It's very bad, and I won't take it here, but one of the hardest things that I'm personally wrestling with is there's a willingness to keep justifying these things and putting these things in brackets like they're spinoffs. Like, oh, this is just one person acting on their own,
Right.
volition. And yes, it is.
Back to your friend saying, "Oh, don't say they."
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're sure it's we're not taught when we say they, we're not talking about everyday citizens who are voting liberally.
Yeah.
We're talking about the machine, the political machine that the puppet masters are pulling strings up at the highest level. And the
Yes.
same goes for both sides. We know that.
Correct.
But the fact of the matter is they hate Trump because he can't be controlled by the machine. And that is upsetting. And we said it before, but of the last 32 years of presidential candidacy, 28 of those years have been controlled. So
Yep.
y'all have had your time. It's
Yeah.
time to step down.
Step aside, man. Yeah. And so we'll move on from that, but just wanted to survey it and hey, this is what's happening out there. We have to be thinking about this.
I mean, it does impact our business and those types of things. Like a president potentially getting assassinated will have a material impact on the economy,
Right.
For sure. It'll have a material impact on the stock market. We've talked about this countless times on the show, but we're coming to the end of a major economic cycle, the end of a 100-year cycle. There's a real lack of leadership. There's a real shift away from me, and more to pro-America. And that's bad for business, for those puppet masters.
Facts.
And so that's the reality we're at. And that kind of sets us up for where we're at this week, where the Federal Reserve is getting ready to cut rates.
Yep.
And
Got
so,
you right here.
Yep. If you want to pull that article up,
Yep.
I can read it since this was my article this morning. And then we'll follow it up with a couple other interesting charts and a few Twitter threads that kind of support some of the concerns going on here.
Okay. Just need to get this. Boom. Okay.
Might just have to close it.
Oh, we got some X's here. Paywalls everywhere.
All right. Fed interest rates cut could boost stocks or sink them. Here's what history says. So a Federal Reserve interest rate cut on Wednesday is looking all but certain. How stocks might react as the central bank loosens monetary policy, however, remains very much up in the air. History offers some guidance. The reason the Fed is cutting interest rates matters far more for the markets than the simple fact that the borrowing costs are coming down. A chart from Vicky Chang, a macro strategist at Goldman Sachs Group, shows that since the 1980s, the Fed has eased monetary policy 10 times. 4 of these cycles have been associated with recessions, 6 were not. When the Fed succeeded in staving off a recession, stocks tended to rally. When it didn't, stocks tended to slide. Investors likely wouldn't have all the information they need come Wednesday. How stocks respond will depend on what the data shows during the months ahead. The truth is, though, the stock market is already rallying, which we would call that it's pricing in a rate cut. So potentially the market is seeing that as something that's positive. But there's a saying in stock trading, which is buy the rumor, sell the fact, which means people could be buying the rumor that there's going to be a rate cut, rates get cut, and the reality is inflation is just going to get worse. Whether or not this cutting cycle will ultimately be a growth scare or recessionary episode is a major market question, Chang said in the report. There's a chart up here on the screen. You guys can see it on Spotify if you're watching or listening there. You can see it on YouTube. Recessionary rate cut cycle saw the S&P index at 0.14% fall 10% during the first 6 months, according to the median case. So what will Wednesday's cut tell investors about the economy? Still, the size of Wednesday's cut could go a long way towards shaping investors' perceptions about the economy, potentially setting the tone for markets for the rest of the year. Investors are particularly hungry for more guidance nowadays, partly because the latest U.S. economic data have been somewhat ambiguous. We saw that with the last jobs report where they adjusted it, net down 800,000 jobs. Whoops, our bad. We were off by a couple zeros. Reports from the Labor Department have shown that hiring has slowed while more workers have entered the workforce, but layoffs haven't really picked up, at least not yet. Meanwhile, inflation has receded, although the latest data released this week hinted at some lingering stickiness when it comes to prices of key services like rent and housing costs. Investors' faith in the economy has propelled the stocks higher in 2024, but recently that trust has been shaking. At times, concerns that a rise in unemployment might snowball have overwhelmed stocks, helping to produce painful sell-offs in August and September. Has the Fed fallen behind is the big question. Some believe that the Fed has already fallen behind on the economic cycle and should have cut rates in July. For this very reason, many of the Wall Street expects a 50 basis point cut, which would likely elicit a negative reaction in the stock market, which I would agree with. Positive if you are a debt investor or somebody who leverages a lot of debt to get deals done. Not so great for the stock market. We talked about this last week, but the truth of the matter was this is very similar to what happened in 1929, very similar to what happened in 2007. They officially defined a recession on December 31st, 2007, because we had 3 consecutive quarters of negative economy. And then it wasn't until September 29th, 2008 that the Dow Jones fell 777 points. That was 9 months later, right? So this rate cut, again, might be a day late and a dollar short. We don't really know. But truth is, cheap money doesn't ultimately lead to less inflation. It leads to more inflation. So for all year, keep your powder dry, but be ready to take some action. You need to get some assets. You need to take control of some things to offset inflation. You might even consider some other non-dollar related assets like Bitcoin. This is not investment advice, but that's just what I do. But I wanted to, so I've always been a read the tape kind of guy, more of a technical trader. That's how I got my start. My mentor was a guy named John Crane. He wrote a book called Action Reaction. He was a swing trader, and he used the Elliott wave theory to analyze markets. And theoretically, you can look at pivots in the market, count back in time, and predict future turning points. So if you want to pull up this next chart, line 6 in the doc.
Yep. I got it right here.
It's a very, very interesting chart.
There we go.
Blow that baby up.
Okay. Is that big enough for you?
Yeah. Can you just click on it and just zoom in just on the chart? There's really nothing to be said in the. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So this is the S&P 500 ETF. And so what he's drawing there is a line towards the top, and you can kind of see the pattern setting up, which is an M top or a double top. And so the market's at a really critical point right now. You see the same kind of pattern when markets are putting in a bottom, right? They set the bottom, they try to rally, they test the low. And in this case, they'll test the high, and one of two things will happen. They'll either find support above that peak high, or they'll have what's called a blow off top, where there's a saying that pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Market always needs another sucker. It's a time to be very, very cautious because that is a potential reversal pattern right there, which could potentially set the market lower. I don't have a parallel chart. I didn't have time to grab that this morning, but I think if you went back and looked at like a 2007, 2008 chart, it would be pretty telling and look pretty similar, because I remember it looking just like that when I was sitting on the trading desk. So that's the tape reading on the economic news, right? You can see that big rally that's happened over the past few days in anticipation of a rate cut. So buy the rumor, sell the fact. Because if they hit a 50 basis point cut, that's not a good sign for the economy, which theoretically wouldn't be a good sign for the stock market.
And so the portion of the M would be here, moving this way.
You got it. Yeah, and it's that would potentially set up a reversal pattern. So if you're using Elliott wave theory, 32% pullback and a 61.8% pullback with a break of that 61.8% pullback bar. If it actually goes lower than that, that would typically be like, if we were swing trading, that would be our entry price. So we would sell on a break below probably like, what's that number there? 552 or so. Yeah. So that's the technical, right? And so like the reason the technical is important, when you lay that over with actual fundamentals, it starts to give you a more clearer picture that's supportive of that. So that's your boy's take. I think that nobody really knows, but you just got to always be prepared. Stay on your toes.
So do you feel like something's about to give? Like, how do you feel about this? I mean,
I don't know if it's a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
I think it's healthy. Markets need to correct. I mean, last year it was like 7 of the stocks in the S&P 500 were holding the entire thing up. So that's not sustainable either. But I have no dog in this fight. I don't even have money in the stock market. But I do love looking at charts. Now, if the market gets wally-womped, you better believe I'm going to be buying stocks. But the other thing too, historically speaking, when rates get cut, the market does fall, historically speaking. So it doesn't necessarily mean there's a recession, but the market will fall. And I think anybody who's alive right now would say we're probably in a recession, right? I think so. I'll give you 2 parallel examples. We just closed on an excavation company. They do all municipal work, right? So government money. The government's not slowed down. They're still spending money. They have to spend money. Municipalities have to spend money. Right. But we're looking at acquiring another one that's in the private market doing like development work, real estate, horizontal work, and it's doldrums for them. They're struggling. So it just depends on what segment you're in, and what part of, or what industry you're in relative to that, because not all industries are going to get affected.
Well, this next piece here, this was also bought from you.
Yeah, Game of Trades. Welcome to the show. This guy's back again. He puts together some really good threads, writes a good newsletter as well. And his take here is just on what he's calling the U.S. government debt market collapse has begun. I think you skipped over one.
Oops, there we go.
Go back to the previous article.
Oh, I did?
Yep.
Okay, my bad. Oh, yes, right. That's right. Here we go.
This thread right here. So he's got a chart up here showing the U.S. Treasury bond market, and he's showing, if you scroll down to the first line item of the thread, he's showing that the bond market broke a 40-year uptrend, which is pretty significant. That's a major trend line that's been running back since 1980s, basically.
What does that mean?
So the trend line is generally where the support exists in the market, right? Okay. So this is psychological. It's also where money tends to come into the market. And so you can see that line, right, from 1983. Then it tested that in 98, 2002, 2007, 8, 10, went back up again, even came close to it again in 13, went back up again, even came close to it again in 18, went back again, came all the way down in 2022, broke it down, tried to rally, failed, and now we're well below that 40-year trend line. So anytime the market breaks major trend lines like that, it's something to think about. Now you can see he drew that line across the middle there. You see the horizontal line?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all that chatter, market chatter. That can be supportive. But if it breaks through lower on that, then we got some real problems.
Okay. So this is communicating support and i.e. confidence.
Correct. Exactly. It's also just showing you the trend, right? So this has been an uptrend for 40 years. Are we moving into a downtrend? And how long does that last?
Well,
So the whole concept of like action reaction, which is what my mentor taught me, is that the market will make an equal and opposite reaction, right?
dude, I mean, it, one of the great things about you bringing this stuff to us is for me, this is a little bit out of my element, but it still correlates with the things in my wheelhouse, like from a social and philosophical level. You can see the sort of overlap of within culture. I might see it more people and not so much markets, but for me, I'm just like, this is kind of eye opening of like what's going on the economic side is very much so parallel to what we're seeing on a societal level.
Yeah, I mean, just to simplify it, an uptrend of the bond market would signify confidence in the US Treasury
Mhm,
or government-backed
mhm,
bonds. A decline in that would tell you the exact opposite.
mhm.
So it's interesting. So following that up, there one more article to just kind of put a bow on this thing. And this comes from Seeking Alpha. It was in the newsletter this week, or maybe last week, that they sent out. Yeah, September 13th. So 3 days ago. And it was talking the end of the cycle, one step closer. The yield curve has uninverted. So first off, what's an inverted yield curve? It's when the short-term treasuries are yielding higher returns than the long-term treasuries. And that's bad because the perceived, again, value or strength of the bonds is based off of what kind of yield you get out of the bond long term. And so if the 2-year is yielding higher than the 10-year, then people are less interested in wanting to put their money locked up for 10,
Long term, yeah.
20, 30 years, right? So they don't have a lot of long-term confidence in the economy. That's what that tends to tell you. So we can just hit the summary bullet points and then get out of here and move on to the next one. But the summary is the yield curve's uninversion historically signals the end of economic expansions and the onset of bear market can vary significantly. Second point is uninversion occurs because the market expects lower long-term growth and inflation, diverging from the Fed's current high interest rates. Hence, 50 basis point cut, bad for the stock market, right? Not healthy for bonds long term, right? Because I can't get a good, healthy long-term yield on that. And inflation's back on, right? Which means leverage is back on. So to confirm a sell signal, watch for a slowing global economy, negative market breadth, and uninverted yield curve aligning, which it's hard to tell because that stuff's slow moving. But they say that bond traders are some of the best traders because they have a better pulse on the overall economy than like stock traders do, which can be really influenced by earnings reports and things like that.
Mhm. So where do we point our entrepreneur friends? You talk about keeping your powder dry.
Keep your powder dry. Yeah, be ready to take some massive action because as rates come down, there's probably some things that you've been holding out on in terms of leveraging and utilizing debt, whether that's expanding your fleet, buying some real estate, merging or acquiring another company. All those things are going to be influenced.
Mhm.
And then, just be ready to operate the heck out of your business because there's people still making money in recessions.
Yeah.
Right? It's just who's ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, it's funny, man. Like even my emotional uh disposition this morning is like I feel like buckling up. That's what I feel. Like I'm like I feel like I'm strapped in kind of this morning of like I'm just taking in the information you brought us. It's kind of stirring, to be frank with you. It's very stirring.
It is, but here's the good news, right? I was sitting on a trade desk in the middle of 2008 when the Dow Jones fell out of bed, and if I knew then what I know now, I'd be quadrillioning down, right? Like I would be 10 toes down, all in, pushing chips on the table, working to do deals.
Mm-hmm.
Because what's happening is the market will slough off the weak hands. Those are investors, those are your competitors, those are people who are in, a poor cash position. Like all those things can potentially be favorable to you if you're ready to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We always talk about it on here. This is an infinite game, and there's only one rule to the game, and that's to keep the game going.
Right.
There's no winners and losers. People will come and go from the game. And just when you think you have the game figured out, the rules change. This is a rule changing moment. So the way that we've been doing business for the last 15 or 20 years is,
it's out the window.
It's been pretty easy. So now we're going to figure out who can operate.
Yeah. No, you're right. Exactly. It's that what's that triangle? The hard times, good times, strong men, weak men thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, shifting gears from that in terms of like, okay, this is what's happening. Well, here's what you can do about it. I wanted us to look at this thread from Matt Gray, someone I follow on Twitter. He puts out consistently high quality content around entrepreneurship, brand building, systems, and he put out a post that we're going to look at building a personal brand, and he had a great thread on it, and I wanted to share it with you guys, and we'll look at it together. And modify our screen here. Boom. Cool. So Matt Gray on Twitter at Matt_Gray with an AY, not an EY, underscore on the end there. So he says the single most valuable asset for winning in business, building a personal brand. The only caveat I would add is obviously personal brand can mean a lot of things today, and there's a lot of people that have different takes on what personal brand means depending on who you're talking to. They could be positioning you for all sorts of things. But when Matt is saying this, he's talking about you ultimately becoming synonymous with a said thing, a said business, a said aspiration, a said belief set, anything like that. That if we can, for example, Samson over the next several years is going to end up being linked with the buying and selling of businesses. That's going to be his brand, because that's the life, that's where he's operating, that's where he's finding success, that's where he's taking people who are following his journey on a deeper journey into the world of buying and selling businesses for himself, and facilitating that through Clearly Acquired or for other entrepreneurs.
Right.
So that's what Matt's getting at. And so let's jump into what he has here as his top 9 examples of who's doing it and why this is the most valuable asset in winning a business. So first up, he says Steve Jobs. He says Steve Jobs' brand was synonymous with innovation and design excellence. 3 things: he embraced simplicity, perfection in the finest detail, creating an emotional connection. It's not enough to build a brand at a surface level. Go deeper, prove your authenticity, build trust. That's what he's saying Steve really drove home, which he did. If we can think of all the different videos and marketing campaigns, and even how the company, went through what it went through without him, and then coming back, and so he really lived that and keep it simple, go for perfection, and be deeply connected to the work and the products we make here at Apple. And now he's synonymous with that. Next up, Rihanna. Rihanna transitioned from music to business mogul, building Fenty into a $2.8 billion empire. She did this by creating products that centered around true inclusivity, leveraging her existing audience, and her personal brand proves that staying true to yourself always wins. Rihanna hasn't put out new music in a long time,
bro, but she just made $6 million for singing at the world's biggest. What was it, like a $600 million wedding?
Correct. Yeah, it was a massive wedding over in India or somewhere like that.
It's like 70 days. I think it was in Dubai. Something crazy. Of course, they would do something crazy like that.
But exactly to that point, her brand relevance is not based on her music. It's her connection with her fans, and it's her, creating these products and these products that integrate right into their lives, that
Yeah.
keep Rihanna top of mind, close to the heart. And her stuff has sold a ton. Like I don't even follow that type of stuff, but her stuff is everywhere, bro.
Yeah.
She has
Did
a
you say
cult
her
following.
brand is Fendi?
Fenty,
Oh, Fenty.
Fenty, right?
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Third, Beyonce. Who doesn't know Beyonce, right? The queen bee, as they call her. Beyonce built her brand by spending years perfecting her craft, making every performance flawless. That is actually one thing that's very true. One of the things that was the biggest catalyst for her growth is she would no, I don't want to say R&B singer because she wasn't an R&B singer. No singer, period, was doing the things she was doing in her heels and her various different things. And people were like, wow, right? So staying true to her identity while creating a global movement, evolving with authenticity has made her a cultural business icon. Number four here, Yvon Chouinard, who I don't, oh, the Patagonia founder. Patagonia's brand is a true reflection of its leader, Yvon Chouinard. He famously said, marketing at Patagonia is very simple. We just tell people who we are. Chouinard, or I keep saying Chouinard, but I think it might be Chouinard, embraces his true self and his values.
He also wrote a great book called Let My People Go Surfing,
Mm,
which is all about culture.
mm. Let's go. Number five here, Jay-Z. We know about Jay-Z. We'll skip that. We know Conor McGregor. Um, but this is all about the building of the personal brand. McGregor was outspoken, confident, brash, arrogant,
Yeah.
making predictions, but went out and did that. Had a story he could attach to it. I came from a humble background. I was a plumber. All of this stuff.
Look
Ryan
at his.
Reynolds.
I'm just thinking about his face, man. His face does not look that healthy anymore.
No, no, it does not
He's
look
got
that
lots of
healthy.
scar tissue in here now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Scar tissue and potential roids and stuff people have accused him of using. Uh,
Oh, of course. I mean,
Ryan
come on.
Reynolds.
Yeah, we talked about Ryan a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, we talked about Ryan. Enzo Ferrari, this guy, which not a lot of people know about him. Enzo refused to mass produce Ferrari. Clients
Right.
had to earn the right to buy a Ferrari. He leveraged his personal brand to tell the ultimate story. The result, Ferrari became a timeless brand associated with passion, prestige, and exclusivity. One thing to note on the personal brand side is even the Lamborghini. Lamborghini is an offshoot of that, right? And how that came about. Another case of building a brand and personal brand. Last but not least, Oprah Winfrey. I won't dig too much into that. Everyone knows these people, but his whole point is that your personal brand is in fact going to be your significant asset, because what's happening, we're all continuing to move online. We're all continuing to move into these spaces, these digital spaces where people can follow your pursuits, follow your work, see what you're good at, see what you're bad at, see what you're really passionate about, the things you hate, so on and so forth. And
So it made me think of, I just had this conversation the other day, the 4 levels of luck. I actually just added an article into the doc. If you want to pull it
sick,
up, it's Sahil Bloom. But
Sahil.
this is exactly what you're talking about. This is what building a brand actually means.
Let me get that. Oh,
So this is an article on Sahil Bloom's site. Shout out Sahil.
yeah, he
Also,
crushes it.
also a great brand guy. He's built a great platform. He talks about this kind of stuff in business and brand building. His brand is talking about brand.
Yep.
So 4 types of luck. If you just want to scroll down to that first headline, keep going down. Keep going.
Ooh, oh, there we go.
Okay. So it says in 1978, a neurologist named Dr. James Austin published a book entitled Chase, Chance, and Creativity, The Lucky Art of Novelty. In it, Dr. Austin proposed that there are 4 types of luck: blind luck, luck from motion, luck from awareness, luck from uniqueness. Here's how to think about each type. Type 1, blind luck. The good luck that occurs is completely accidental. It is pure blind luck that comes with no effort on our part. Type 1 luck or blind luck is completely out of your control. It includes where you are born, who you are born to, base circumstances of your life, acts of God, right? Won the lottery. Type 1 luck covers the truly random occurrence of the universe. Type 2, luck from motion. Something else has been added, motion. A certain level of action stirs up the pot, brings in random ideas that will collide and stick together in fresh combinations. Let's chance operate. Type 2 luck, or luck from being in motion, is a result of your actions or motion. You're creating motion and collisions through your hustle and energy that you are inserting into the ecosystem. This type of luck is derived through the expansion of your luck surface area from simple movement. The increase in collisions opens you up to more lucky events. An example would be you start a new job, start saying yes to every opportunity that comes your way. You're working hard, running around, meeting new people, and connecting new connections whenever possible. You connect two of the people you met through taking on these opportunities. They start a business together, make you a small advisor. Because you connected them, it becomes a big business and you make $1 million. Your hustle and motion created this lucky event. Type 3 luck comes from awareness. Luck presents only a faint clue. The potential opportunity exists, but it will be overlooked except by that one person uniquely equipped to observe it, visualize it conceptually, and fully grasp its significance. Luck from awareness involves a special receptivity, discernment, and intuitive grasp of significance unique to one particular recipient. Type 3 luck is a result of your awareness and depth of understanding of a specific domain. This depth of understanding within a given arena allows you to become very good at positioning yourself for lucky breaks to benefit you. An example, the entrepreneur and investor Naval Ravikant, who's a dude we love, summarizes this type of luck beautifully. You become very good at spotting luck. You can spot luck from a mile away because your depth of knowledge and experience. An example would be you're an entrepreneur and you see impressive pace at which generative AI is developing from creating images and art. You had been building around the NFT profile craze from 2021 to 2022 and believe that generative AI profile pictures may represent a market with similar potential. You build a generative AI profile app, charge people to use it, make millions. Your mind was prepared for the lucky opportunity given your experience set. And then there's type 4 luck, luck from uniqueness. This type of luck comes to you unsought out because of who you are and how you behave.
Brand.
It's brand, right? This type of luck occurs when your unique set of attributes attracts specific luck to you. It actually seeks you out. An example would be you spent years tinkering with generative AI models way before the cocktail party fodder. Your unique passion and earned expertise means that you are often called by founders and CEOs building at the forefront of AI, and you are able to earn equity in a variety of interesting projects that will likely return millions. Your unique and quirky hobby attracts luck to you. And that's it. That's brand. And so I'll actually give you an example of a guy in our circle who we know who I think has done a really good job of this, and that's Bobby Schell.
Yes.
Right. When it comes to Bitcoin, he was talking about Bitcoin before it was cool, was building brand around it. Then he got on at a company called Voltage. Then from there, he's been asked to advise on a number of different companies that all do Bitcoin, which is the most recent one I think has to do with small businesses adapting Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So he's done a really, really good job of that. And he's starting to reach that unique luck, right? Where even today I posted about the business acquisition that we just did last week and how I liquidated some Bitcoin to make it happen. And he's been talking about Bitcoin and SMB kind of being the two things. And so as a byproduct of his network, right, I got some love and new followers as a byproduct of, our two worlds colliding, right?
Yeah.
So my uniqueness and his uniqueness coming together. So
yeah, and we're actually going to talk about this in two clips. In two segments from now about your uniqueness, because I think there's some simple ways to begin to leverage it. Because when you talk about brand, it can feel very overwhelming.
Yeah,
it can feel very overwhelming. We know that personally. We know that personally, guys. We just know that. But I want to, on the back of this, I want to show. Actually, I'll skip the thing I was going to show and jump right into this, because I think this is a perfect example of how you can begin to build brand, or create the space to develop your brand in a very easy way. And one person who has done this is a guy by the name of Russell Brand. And a lot of you know who he is, but I want to take this piece of content here and show you that this is something that you could do if you are in fact trying to build your brand. Because what Russell has done here in this clip, so for those of you who don't know, Russell in recent months has become a Christian. And And so Russell's arc very much is one that went from you know, out there, left, wild, crazy man to, and I'm here observing what's happening, and some real things are happening. I can't continue to be foolish and act like things aren't happening around me. To he's entering this era now where he's given his life to the Lord, and he's beginning to share what he is learning in his new walk with the Lord. And so, while you may not be segmented to faith, um, hey, I just bought a business. Hey, I just started a business. I just had a kid, or I'm going through this. I was just diagnosed with this, but I'm also filling this role. I'm running a company and I was just diagnosed with cancer. Uh, the chronicling of your life and your aspirations and pursuits and figuring this out is really actually the easiest gateway to begin to build some momentum in which you can actually begin to build the components of a brand. And so we'll listen to this one clip here of Russell and talk about it.
Thinking about, I've been thinking about the I am statement in John's Gospel. What the Jesus will feed us, will feed my addiction, who will
Oh,
feed my sense of emptiness, who I am the light. He is consciousness itself, awareness, illumination, goodness, so many metaphors we could attach to light. Three, I am the door. I am the portal between states, states like living and death, states like awakened and unawakened. Four, I am the good shepherd. He guides us, we abide with him. Five, I am the resurrection. The resurrection of Christ means that we have beaten death. The resurrection of Christ means that Christ may live in us, we may die, and he may be born within us. Six, I am the way and the life and the truth. Self-explanatory, but great if you've ever been into something like Taoism. And finally, I am the vine. We are merely branches on a vine. I once heard Joseph Campbell say, if a janitor, like if a light bulb breaks in a school and the janitor had to replaces the light bulb, he never says, "Oh, that was my favorite light bulb." He remembers that it was connected to a current. Now, of course, in Christianity, we do believe in
so
individual souls.
so as you can see, Russell is hanging out in his office, his studio, and he's got a phone recording, dogs in the background barking. You can see dog food in the back. You can see the books he's reading. So you don't have to go one for one with Russell, but the point is, brand. It doesn't have to be this crazy thing where you hire a bunch of people, you hire an agency, and you do all of this. It's just like, what are you doing? What are you passionate about? And
Yeah.
getting over get the courage to actually be consistent in producing the content. But
Yeah.
you are the content already. Even if you're like, I don't have a brand, well, here's day one of me figuring out what my brand is.
It's so interesting too, because I think there's this embedded fear that, we're going to be judged for what we post or what we say. And there's a great quote. My father-in-law actually gave it to me. It's some will, some won't. So what? And you got to live by that. And so I made a post yesterday, and like the very first comment was obviously like some super negative, nobody cares comment, right? Which was followed by hundreds of, great likes, bookmarks, and positive comments where people were trying to learn and understand. They wanted more, right? So there's always going to be grifters, right? So don't be afraid of that. But your vibe attracts your tribe. And if you just are authentically yourself, what makes you uniquely you, right? That's actually what brand is. That's why we do this podcast, right? That's why we talk about that kind of stuff. It's where we breathe those lines between faith and business.
Right. Facts. Well, last thing I have for us today before we close out is um, many people are. So I told you I told you guys about my conversation with my friend a little bit, but that was part of a bigger conversation we were having amongst friends of the machine that people refer to, this media machine. And people in the conversation they weren't willing to grapple with, like, there is a machine. It was like, what are you talking about? There's no machine. There's no machine. There's nothing happening. Well, I found this little clip here, and it's not validating that there's a machine, but it is going to point out to you that maybe if you don't see that there's a machine, you need to start considering that everything you're taking in is in fact part of a machine. And so, let me pull
Bro, this
here.
is the entire concepts of the Matrix.
Yeah, well, this one here is very interesting, and I got a kick out of it, and it'll be a perfect note to end on the pod. And so, here we go here, and 3, 2, 1. Make sure my volume's good while we close this bad boy out.
This is what the mainstream media was saying right after the debate.
This is the part where Donald Trump invented someone. He invented a person who doesn't exist in addition to the people he says are eating dogs. There's another person who doesn't exist. His name is Abdul.
And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems.
Maybe the reason that VP Harris is looking at him that way is one that she's probably thinking maybe he should go back to the old folks home and have a bowl of Jello. Or she might also thinking to herself, no. The head of the Taliban's name is not Abdul. It is Hibatullah Akhundzada. So maybe he couldn't remember that. I had to write it down to know it. Your thoughts on his response in making up Abdul as a person that isn't real?
No one can really confirm who this Taliban person named Abdul is, who he said he'd talk to.
It's the bizarrest bit in the whole debate, where he describes the leader of the Taliban as a guy called Abdul. It's a completely non-existent person. He's just chosen the one Muslim name he can remember. It's like, I don't know, the leader of the Taliban saying, that guy John who leads the West, or is it Billy? That's the kind of sort of wacky direction she sent his head in, because she had prepared so well.
And this is what they were saying in 2021.
The man who now leads the Taliban in Afghanistan, Mullah Abdul Ghani
Got him.
Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, co-founder of the Taliban.
I could hear in Mullah Baradar's voice that he knew President Trump meant business.
PBS News has confirmed that CIA Director William Burns met secretly in Kabul with the Taliban's de facto leader, Abdul Ghani Baradar.
Abdul.
We have learned that.
Okay, Abdul. So that's the note I wanted to end on today. Look, I people are afraid of having these kind of conversations because if they do, it essentially starts to tear down the world around them.
Correct. I will say that entrepreneurs are generally more open to it because we generally tend to buck the system, right?
Right.
We tend to say that not everything is as it seems. And every belief that we have is a series of programs that are built in, and people are deep in the matrix.
Yeah.
And they have a hard time of speaking against that or going against the grain.
Yeah, and because we are those people who aren't afraid of that, just know that that's why it's such a drag, right? It's like you're one, there's a spiritual component. Satan doesn't want people believing the truth. He doesn't want that, but also people's paradigm, their whole worlds will crumble if oh my gosh, I can't believe this, and so we have to be mindful of that. So
yeah, exactly.
On that note, we need to be more mindful of right now on this Monday is getting back to you guys building your businesses, us doing the same, continuing to take advantage of this great opportunity we have.
All right. Till next time.
Yes. Take care. Later, guys.
Peace.